when did you make the move from assistant to like full-time in charge, and how was your first album?
Yeah, that's a toughie. As an assistant, I got very bored. By the end of my assistantship, I just wanted to stab some people. I was just like, everybody in this room is stupid. I can't stand this anymore. I am bored. I'm going to fall asleep. You get very anxious to record, and very tired of thinking, I have these ideas and nobody is going to listen to me. I do not have the authority or right to open my mouth in here. I will be fired if I do. I had a very lucky scenario once again. Mine was special. I was working with Dan Lanois in that crowd over at Kingsway. I started out as a cable maker and his personal maid. I had to do that man's laundry and wash his motorcycles and find him, French milled patchouli soap and work in the studio. But he could be very hard on me as an assistant, and there wasn't a whole army of assistants either. There was just me. And so I would make cables, I would come downstairs, I would get the food order in, I would make sure the bathrooms were clean, I would go up front. They would play a bunch of takes. I was an assistant, to be sure. And then, Brian Blade's in the room, Daryl Johnson's in the room, really great musicians are in the room. And after they play 3 takes down, Dan would look at me and say, Trina, which one? And I had better have an answer. So in other words, I had to be an engineer way before I was being paid to engineer. Because if I just said, hey, they all sound great, guys, I would have been fired. So I had to say, take 2 really felt the best to me, but I liked the bridge from 3. And I think that the first half of the first verse from 1 was, and I was taking notes. The minute that the tape went into play, then I was up front, I'm like, take 1, verse 1. Was that late? And I just pretended that I was, that anybody cared what I thought. But then he would ask. And then once I stated my opinion, everybody else would pretty much go, that sounds right to me, and then he'd say, go cut it, and leave the room. And I was sitting there with a bunch of multi-tracks, and he is asking me to edit these things, cut them with razor blades. So I was an assistant, and I was a maid, but I was also often just kind of picked up by the scruff of the neck and stuck in front of the tape machine and left with complete authority to possibly ruin these tapes, too, and make very bad mistakes, and I wasn't going to. So I was around producers who wanted to humiliate me, but at the same time wanted to really test my knowledge and my feel. And luckily, I did pick the right take, and I did cut in the right bridge, and it did feel right. Malcolm Byrne was also in that group of people, and he, bless his heart, he's so good, but he would get really drunk. And I was the assistant. And so if he's passed out on the couch and the artist still wants to work, somebody has to record, and that person would be me. So I ended up sitting in the engineering chair again as the assistant, but that's because the producer was passed out. Or he was playing. He would come in and sit and play with the band, so somebody had to run the board. And he didn't want me fooling with the sounds that he dialed up, but you're still the one sitting there. And you're the one in record, and you're the one that had better be taking all the notes. And then I think, I just know the snare drum's not bright enough, I'm brightening it. And I would start to take control of the situation, and as a result, started doing engineering, but then I was still being credited as an assistant or a second. Your ego starts to rear up a little bit and say, I recorded that, I wasn't an assistant, those are my sounds. But eventually someone will look and say, she's the one that gets all the sounds, where's that girl that you always have around here? Oh, I don't know, get her up here. I like the way she made the drum sound the last time. So I morphed into being the first engineer completely by accident, and certainly wasn't paid for it, and it just happened, and it took about 8 years. It takes a long time. And you have to get in there by yourself. I would take, when everybody else left, I would get an old roll of 1/2 inch, I would go over to the 1/2 inch, I was dumped down like my favorite Rolling Stone songs, and I would arrange them with edits and make myself do it where if Mick Jagger had walked in, he'd go, oh, sounds good, love. Really like teach myself to edit. And nowadays on Pro Tools, you've got to get in there and really, I don't care if it's digital or analog, you better think, They got the masters all sorted out. I'm going to make a new copy on a drive. I'm going to take that home, and I'm going to re-edit this song the way I want to hear it. And nobody's ever going to hear it, except for me. I'm going to make beautiful edits, and I'm going to comp this vocal, and you have to practice being the first engineer on your own time. And then hope you don't get caught, and you hope you don't mess anything up either that they're going to catch you at. Thank you. Sneak, you gotta sneak around in there, and then, yeah, be like, I'm gonna do a mix while nobody's looking, but then I'm gonna put everything back just like they left it. And yeah, it took a long time, and then it happens. And then even once you've made it, you're still like, wow, I hope I get another gig someday. You know, I hope I get a gig and then I make $1 million, then I can quit. No, that's not what you want to hear right now.
Did you ever do anything really stupid and record over a master or something like that?
Wow, I went for such a long time without, yes. Well, actually, no. But I've done other incredibly stupid things. During a Pearl Jam session, I was cutting, I was trying to have the empty flange once again, pre-Pro Tools, everything's analog, and we're talking about hundreds of rolls of tape, and I was an assistant, and obviously it mattered to me that I not look like an idiot in front of Brendan O'Brien and Nick Tadia. So I was having to empty a flange, and in order to do that, you take one side off the flange and you cut the tape in order to quickly open up a reel of tape. Cut some scrap tape off a flange, and I cut myself. And I started bleeding, and I got blood all over one of their masters. It didn't ruin it, but it still stopped the session because I got blood. I mean, I cut my thumb where it went, and squirted blood all over near the Studer and on the head, and like got some on the back of the tape. And I was like, blood's coming down my arm at this point. They're like, what in the hell? So I've done embarrassing things like that. I have erased over a vocal accidentally during a Giant Sand record, a backing vocal, and I have never burned over a master. But again, I came up in a world where burning over a master would not only, I've had assistants burn over masters, I've had my own staff do very devastating things to the session, but me again being the person who thought I'm never going to just if someone gets lippy with me too many times, they're going to be fired. If they show disrespect to me or any artist, they'll be fired. If an assistant accidentally burns over something or erases something or messes something up, tells the truth and is going to learn from that, they're not going to be fired. But I came from people who did things like threw DAT machines at me if there was any mistakes, or I'd get punched if I if I blew the punch. And again, like I just feel so old-timey because you didn't have to punch on analog anymore, but we did, and if you messed the punch up, there was no going back. There wasn't any, we'll just peel it back, you know. So, no, I learned from people who I thought would actually physically hurt me if I messed their tapes up, and I believed that they would, and I think they probably, I mean, Dan once came in screaming and took a 12-string Martin and smashed it on an EV wedge while he screamed, if I fucking tell you to turn it up, you better turn it up. And he destroyed a $5,000 guitar, and I kept thinking, actually, I would let you punch me if you would give me the Martin. And but this was my experience, was one of, but these are the same people who were like, taught me to be fearless when it came to punching, fearless when it came to EQing, fearless when it came to calling an edit to say, cut it there. No, that'll never work. No, it will work. I feel it will work. And actually cut the tape there and glue the pieces together and have this fabulous edit take place. And they taught me to be fearless and passionate and really move and really get into the console and really stick my thighs underneath the board, and then I can feel if there's enough bass, because the whole board, and we're talking about a Neve board, is vibrating with bass. And when it actually hits me in the situation, then I think that's enough bass now. Like, they taught me to be that thing and not this very careful, very prim, you know, thing. I like actually spread my legs under the board and shove my thighs up onto the console and wait to feel when I feel like there's enough bass. And I think I know I'm actually talking about what you think I'm talking about. But you learn to either embrace it as this passionate physical thing, or it would be so boring in there. So, yeah, better. Sorry for that. That's rude, but it's true. You'll do it. You will when you sit at a board. You will do that too. See that? I know you have.
What do you expect? What do you look for? What do you ask for in an assistant?
An assistant has to first and foremost, not complain about being tired, because we're all going to be tired. And if I have to look over and look at a second or an assistant, and let me preface this by saying all of my assistants and seconds I credit with me on the recording line. So my assistants are recorded by Trina Shoemaker with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. So if you do right on a session with me, you'll get a recording credit, because I see my assistant and my second as being integral to me, and that if they're not doing that job, I'm doing that job, and it's all part of engineering. So that I don't draw the line to say, I'm the engineer, you're the assistant. Assisting is part of engineering. It's just that if I have a good assistant, it means I don't have to do that part of the engineering. It's all part of the whole. But if the assistant complains about being tired, no tardiness is ever tolerated unless you have a very good excuse. You must be there on time. I must be there on time. Very neat handwriting. Love it or leave it. You can write sloppy in your journals, and you can write sloppy for your own songs, but when it comes to documenting the session, I want neat writing.
What kind of documentation are we talking about?
Wow, I mean, again, whether it's the track sheets because you're burning tape, or whether it's the notes to make me understand how you playlisted the Pro Tools takes, notes about all of the inputs coming in from the studio. So if I look and say, where's the kick plugged in? I want to know exactly. I want to know what hole it's plugged into out in the room, what patch point I can find it at. I want my chain very clearly defined. I want little pieces of tape on every piece of gear that say, this is the kick compressor. Documentations on sounds. How do we get this particular guitar sound if I ask for it? What's the vocal chain? Again, if we're burning tape, I want, not only am I taking tape numbers, but I want the assistant taking numbers, and meaningful numbers like take 3, where guitar guy's headphones fell off, so that I can help me to remember. Sometimes I'm asked to document hours of musicians, which annoys me, but I have to do it. Any kind of documentation. There is so much documentation that goes into making a record. You have no idea.
Do you write down the settings for all the outboard equipment?
Often, yes. Sometimes I don't. If it's hurried, if it's cheap, if we got no money, it's like, I'm never coming back. I'm never going to recreate this. Sheryl Crow, for example, she will ask months later, can we get that guitar tone back? I just want to punch in that one bridge. It doesn't feel right to me. And I'll be thinking, that guitar tone, well, who, was that played by Craig Ross or Lyle Wirt? Like, I have to know, there's many guitar players, there's hundreds of amps. There could be 3 Gibson 335s that are red. So you can't even write down red 335. It has to be which red 335, which pickup setting, because you have to duplicate it exactly months later in a different studio with a different musician and a different amp. Drum sound, same thing. So depending on the artist and your knowledge of how far they're going to want to peel back to get back to a sound, often now I will just you have to fix your guitar part or your whatever part before we move off and change tones, because I'm not going to sit there and recall a guitar sound for 2 hours. But lots of documentation, hours, sounds, EQ settings, chains, mixes. There's so much to write down. But again, Pro Tools is changing all of that, because so much of it is visible to you. Mostly, how do we get back to a sound if we need to?
And you don't want your seconds talking. You want them working.
Yeah, a second. Again, I don't want somebody who's boring. I want to be. Believe it or not, being funny in there makes a huge difference. So you need to have some kind of sense of humor, but you can't be a clown. The second has to be a consummate professional, very serious about his or her role, satisfied with his or her role at the moment. Even though they can come to me and say, wow, I've been seconding for 3 years and I'm really ready to do some firsting. Can you give me any ideas on how to make the jump? Even if you're tired, don't look tired and don't act tired, because I'm tired too. And what will do is make me feel guilty that I've kept you there too long and undermined my need to get my job done. You may never, ever, ever get defensive or contradict the artist. That is my job, or the producer's job, to do If you have a problem with the artist, if something has happened, I need to know about it. I will defend my second, always. But they cannot, you unfortunately have to eat a bunch of crap as a second, and you are not really allowed to mouth back. It is a subservient position. That doesn't sound fun, but it is. My job as an engineer is often subservient. The job is to get a great recording on tape for an artist. And a lot of times you just have to be the invisible. I still have to do it too. When I'm in a room with, recently I was in Nashville with Cheryl, and she's got on the phone, and this Mick Jagger is on the other end of the phone, and I'm holding it in front of the speakers because she's singing on a song of his, but she wants to know if she's getting the vibe right. And I'm thinking, Mick Jagger's face is on the other end of this phone, and I'm holding it like this. Just a second. Hand it back to Cheryl, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we gotta do it again. So I'm having to record her singing a verse in a song, and I'm thinking the whole time with this screaming loud with Mick Jagger on the other end of the phone. So at that point, I'm a nobody. I can't go, Mick. Motherfuck, I can't believe that. I love you, man. I can't do this. I want to. I want to say, you were so fine when you were young, but now you're not that fine. That's got me confused. My friend Tommy loves you. I want to do all these things because I'm thinking Mick Jagger's right here. He's in my hands. I've got Mick in my hands. But I can't. I have to shut up and seem real cool, even though I'm nervous, too. It was just bizarre. And I thought, this is weird. You are subservient not to the artist. You are subservient to the music. The music is more important than you. The music has to pass through you. And when I say you, I mean the assistant, too. The assistant is me. The assistant represents me. The assistant is a facet of the recording. As much as anybody, the music passes through you on its way to the tape machine or the computer. And if you have a bad attitude, if you got a big fat ego, that gets recorded. If you are a smart mouth, that gets recorded. If you're a funny guy, it all, you color the music whether you want to or not. So the thing to do is to be almost like invisible, so that it passes through you and it goes right to the tape in its truest form, without you fooling with it, without you not recording it, without you punching holes into it, without you getting the phase wrong, without you having over EQ'd it, without your bad attitude or your tired self doing a lazy job. And there's just, you have to just, and then when someone looks at you and says something, you got to be not only there and knowledgeable, but kind of funny helps a lot. Being funny is extremely helpful in the studio. Being a funny assistant to me is very helpful. Make me laugh. Thank you.
Are you funny in the studio?